All right. So I wanted to talk about NHL 27, and specifically, I wanted to talk about GM Connected. There's a lot of uproar out there in the community, and it's a number of reasons. One, I think people wanted to see a certain feature set that they're not seeing. Number two, people are like, why EA is just bringing back a mode they already did, and it's worse than before. And why is, EA like basically why can't they just put in the full mode that they took out already, right? Um so it's interesting, like going back to GM Connected, back which was in NHL 13, introduced in NHL 13. It was in NHL 14 as well, largely unchanged, right? And really NHL 13 was the game they put it in, and they pretty much didn't change it since then. And like NHL 14 had it as well, and then 15 on Xbox 360 and PS3 continued to have it, and then NHL Legacy, which was essentially NHL 16 for Xbox 360 and PS3, also had it, and that was the last year that had it, right? And with the next gen systems at the time, PS4 and Xbox One, we started with NHL 15. Um, they didn't include it, and they actually basically did a huge rewrite of the mode system. And so NHL 15 was a very bare bones game, and yeah, and like I didn't agree with the way that they handled their re-platform. I myself am a software engineer and now engineering manager by trade. And I think that there are smoother ways to kind of handle that transition where you don't lose your features. Like for example, I have built e-commerce sites for multi-billion dollar revenue projects, and we can't just remove like a major feature. Like we can't just remove the product page, while we're doing our replatform, right? Like what we have to do is do a smooth transition where it's like, okay, you're rewriting your whole platform, uh, or your whole, yeah, you're basically rewriting your whole platform. And so you start, let's say, with the home page, and what you do is like you keep the rest of the pages on the old platform, and then you start rewriting, but you've got your new homepage on the new platform, and then you go page by page and rewrite those other pages, and that's like what I felt like they should have done with the modes. It's like, oh, you can keep GM connected, but rewrite your modes like one by one, and then when you get to GM connected, you get to it, right? Um, so that was a mistake, right? But whatever, right? That's ancient history now. Um, Funny thing was, I was on Twitter and saying to people, "Oh, I don't even think anyone who wrote that code is there anymore," and I'm probably wrong because I took a look at the NHL 13 and 26 credits and compared them, and I want to say like uh, they have something like I don't remember the exact number. I have it here somewhere, but they have something like 57 engineers on the NHL 13 team, and I think 17 of them, I mean, it's something somewhere in the 50s, right? But 17 of them are still with the team, right? So there's a chance that people who actually worked on Gym Connected are still there, right? But at the same point, for if you've been a programmer, a software developer, I've looked at my code 6 months later, after not touching it and not understood a lick of it, let alone like a decade plus later. And then number two is obviously they've rewritten the game multiple times since then, so nothing would fit, right? They wouldn't be able to just drop it in, right? So that's that. Now, in terms of like building the actual feature, um, I think they started like I don't think this is like them saying like, hey, this is connected franchise and that's it. I think this is them saying, okay, here's V1 of it, help us make it better. And they started from the point where they thought it would be the most fun and most important. And I think as someone who has run online leagues before, right? I ran them in NHL 2001, 2002 era when the game also had support for online leagues in the PC version. And I also attempted to run leagues in 13, but GM Connected was slow and broken in my opinion. But as someone who's run leagues, I think they focused on the right things, right? Because I think generally the online leagues that I have seen is generally people like to play with only human versus human players, right? In the more serious leagues, they don't want to play against CPU teams, right? So this checks that box. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have the option, right? But people in general who are serious about online leagues, they only want to play human versus human, right? The fact that it doesn't mirror the NHL's 30 teams is not as important because coordinating 30 teams is like hardcore. That's very difficult, to be honest, right? But the fact that it's human players, for me, it's the right move for a V1. The fact that the league size, like you can, obviously you don't have to play with 30, 32 teams, which was one of the problems with GM Connected, right? You don't have to play 82 or 84 games. You can shrink down, the number of games. You know, all that's good. Back in NHL 2001, 2002, I ran leagues which had like from 6 to 10 players, I think. Um, and these were people from like the most hardcore like EA NHL community back in the day, right? We had a forum. It had different iterations. It was like Double Minor Hockey Network, DoubleMiner.net. There was honestly I don't remember the name that predated Double Minor. Um, but you know that community had existed through the late 90s and 2000s until like, they basically got rid of the PC version because, it was mainly focused around PC modding, but it was a hardcore community. And I could only muster, yeah, we had up to 10 players, I think, on the biggest seasons we did. And we found that as we expanded, the people we were adding to the league would join and then realize the commitment was too much. And we were doing like seasons that were like, you know, 7 games long or 10 games long. They weren't very long seasons, right? 12 games long. I don't remember the exact number. I think we basically do either like you play each team once or twice, right? And that was too much of a commitment for a lot of people who tried joining, right? Um, so I think people need to keep that in mind. Now, I do wonder, I do wonder, like the people who are complaining, like, did you actually try to play GM Connected, right? Did it actually work for you? I have talked to someone who said like, hey, yeah, I played GM Connected with my, I think either 2 or 3 people, and he was like, but we simulated like most of the games, and it's like, well, like, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna do that, I guess if that's your use case, that's valid if you enjoyed it and had fun. Um, but they're obviously focusing on like more like esportsy, like competitive right now, right? And I do wonder like how many people, the people that are complaining, if they've actually tried to play an online league before and do they understand the amount of coordination it takes, the amount of effort and commitment it is to play like an 82, 84 game season. Uh, if it was, whether or not, um, it was 2 human players or 5 human players or whatever, right? It's a huge commitment, right? So again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't add that feature for CPU players. Um, but I think they added a lot of smart changes, right? That to stuff that was problematic in GM Connected, right? So here it is showing like I guess the main play screen for Connected franchise, and this player's Montreal Canadiens. Looks like it's a 10-person league, and it's set to 9 games, so basically play every team once. Um, and it's got this flexible schedule option. So I believe from the screenshots, there's either NHL style, which is probably like you have to play games in a specific order, or flexible schedule, which you just play games when you're available. Which I think for people who are romanticizing, I want to play an NHL league, right? They're like they want to play it in that order, but it's very difficult, right? The reason why teams in the NHL have a schedule is because that's when they're available. That's when they can travel to the game, right? They set up that time, right? In real life people, it's very hard, right? And so flexible schedule makes way more sense where you can just play people, when you can play them. Um, yeah, let's see. Yeah, so this is the screen which kind of confirms that, hey, it's only so here it says teams without a human user cannot be control traded with or played against. So I think some people are confused. What that means is that those teams aren't in your league, right? Teams that don't have a human user don't exist, right? So yeah, that's like where people are upset, right? Or one of the main reasons why people are upset. Um, and again, like I hope they added an option for CPU. I think the uproar, it's got to be on their priority list now. To whether it's a patch this year, probably will be difficult to patch it in. Or for NHL 28. Um, yeah, like like again, like I don't think I still think like for most people who have actually experienced playing online leagues, what they're delivering is amazing. It's awesome. The fun is playing other human players, right? Not playing CPU players, right? That's not the fun. The fun, I think for some people it's definitely like the fun is emulating the NHL and being authentic to the NHL. Uh, and maybe you can do that like a league with one other person, with a friend. That might work, maybe. Um, because you could go independently and play your games against CPUs without checking in until you have to play each other. Um, but I don't imagine like thinking you can get a league together of like 6 to 10 people and play against 32 CPU teams and 84 games. Like it will almost or surely not work, right? So yeah, I mean those are my thoughts, right? Like so there are people here talking about um yeah, here Sapboy Steve and someone who I respect from the NHL commentary community, just talking about actual NHL stuff. Over a decade of work going into game mode that they released without it being completed is so on point for EA Vancouver. And the reality is they didn't work on it for a decade, right? So they worked on other features. Unfortunately, from NHL 15 to 19, a lot of it was basically rebuilding features that were missed, right? And then I think NHL, 20 to 23, they really perfected the gameplay. And I know a lot of people didn't like 23. I did, but whatever. And then 24, they had new leadership change and it kind of went into new direction. They did other things as well. Like obviously they put effort into HUT. Be a Pro recently they revamped. So they weren't working on this feature for a decade, right? They I think they gave indications maybe like 2 or 3 years ago they had started to work on um an online franchise mode. Um and you gotta wonder how much time they allocated to it. Like, um, who knows? Only they know how much time they actually allocated to it. Uh, but yeah, they did not spend a decade on it, right? So here one of the confirmations was it's 3 to 32 players, which is cool. Um, I kind of wish they even had an option for 2 players. Like, why not have like a playoff? Just go straight into playoffs, right? That would be cool. Um, yeah, this thing like why is it so hard to do anything right? Again, people don't understand the realities of game development. This stuff's hard. It's not just drop in the old GM connected mode. That's not gonna work. Like it's not gonna be compatible with where the game is today, right? And to understand 14-year-old code and like drop it into today's code would probably be just as much effort as rewriting the code. And then the other thing is, it's not as simple as dropping online franchise into or dropping like the regular single player franchise into online franchise mode either, because of like some of the challenges that online franchise has to have different um a different way to work, like stuff like flexible scheduling. Like that's not going to be in your offline franchise mode. You got to have that option in an online uh franchise mode. So I can imagine like when they're looking at what features we need to build specifically for online franchise to work, they know they need to build like a flexible schedule for anyone to have a chance to play it. So that's probably where their starting point was. Okay, let's build a mode that has flex scheduling. Let's build a mode that you can play, against other human players, and that's kind of where they started, right? And I'm sure they um again like part of this is definitely like EA did not message this that well. I will admit that they didn't. I think the whole thing about EA drip feeding features is passe. Like they need to stop doing that. When I saw how college football and Madden was rolled out this year, I'm like, that's how every game needs to be done now. In this age of social media where people will look at something and they'll just get like mad at what they don't see, um because they might not know there might be a bunch of cool features that have not been announced yet and we don't know about, and people are just getting angry because they only think this game has the features that were announced in the reveal trailer, right? They literally think that, right? So the big features were presentation, and uh, connected franchise. So they think that the the dev team spent all year on connected franchise and that's it. And that's why they're so angry. Like, how did you spend all year on only connected franchise and it's in this state, right? So that's why I think they need to, for next year, get away from that. Do what Madden did. Do like a 2 hour stream. Get every expert in like basically how they do a drop of every mode, like every couple weeks they release a video. Just do it all at once, right? Do like a section with every one of those modes. Do a thing at the end where you actually show people playing the game and have gameplay. And you're gonna have a lot better vibes from that, right? So I think that's another thing, is that there's so little information that people are just gonna get mad. It probably would have helped if they had dropped the playtest at the same time. I guess EA didn't realize um like how angry people would be. But again, like it's like a combination of like people not understanding what they're asking for, I think, and not understanding how game development is and how much effort it takes to deliver features, and that it's the only way GM Connected was ever going to come back was going to be in like a multi-year rollout with adding features. Yeah, so just like you can see how angry people are here. Uh, GM Connected. So one of the things that I see is people talk about, oh, why isn't this like Madden, right? Madden just has the thing is Madden, you are playing 17 games. The considerations of stuff like flexible schedule, they don't need to do. There's also even the consideration of how to deal with delinquent GMs is probably a lot easier in Madden because of how rigid the NFL schedule is, versus the NHL schedule. So yeah, I like it's not the same, right? I think it's a lot easier to get people together to play 17 to play one game a week, right? You just have to play one game a week. Whereas with GM Connected, you could create a league where you are playing up to 3 to 4 games a week and getting people to commit to that. And so how do we make this work, right? So both in terms of hey having the flexible schedule support, and then also like how do we deal with delinquent GMs? Like do we can we punish them where we can forfeit some of their games? Can we, if we have to remove a GM, what does that do? Do all of their games just disappear? does everyone just get an auto win? Like, what does that look like, right? So they have to have those considerations, whereas I don't think they have to think about that as hard with Madden. Um, yeah, here again, remove brings back highly requested feature, removes key factors. So they didn't remove anything. They had to build something new, right? Um, and again, I do wonder if a lot of these people are just single player gamers who are just mad at the prospect of, oh, it's not authentic. I don't know, man. Like we'll see. EA needs to fix this. Like he doesn't specify specifically what he's mad about, but I'm sure they'll I mean, they need feedback. But like that's why the video also says please give us feedback on what you guys want us to do. Basic maybe the mistake was they called it franchise mode. Right? Right? Like for me, I'm not faced. Like I don't care. Like all that stuff, like set your hot dog prices, like I don't care about that stuff. Right? So maybe that's why people are so angry, is because it literally is called franchise. I'm guessing like the people at EA probably have the same attitude that I have towards franchise mode, right? Which is why like in terms of like having all those stuff like setting the hot dogs and the drop, like it's great that current franchise modes have that, but like I remember back in the day, like I've been playing games so long, I remember when they didn't have all that shit, right? So uh yeah, so I think I'll probably be repeating myself if I go through this. A lot of people are angry. Like I think a lot of people don't understand the realities of um, you know, development is hard. They're gonna have to gradually do it. And I think they focused on delivering something day one that will be fun. Right. And I think that's what's important, that people can actually engage and have fun. And I'm excited for it because it's exactly what I wanted. Where I go is like, oh man, I want fantasy draft. I want custom teams, right? Like being able to have your own team identity. That's like to me, that's where the fun is. Like me and my friends can create our own teams and we can draft all the NHL players and um have our own like custom rosters, and then um that whole thing about drafting like is really important, like the fantasy draft, right? Um Yeah, I think I've pretty much exhausted this topic.